Good morning. I'm Hang Leto, the chair of the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau Advisory Committee. I'm calling this meeting to order at 10:03 a.m. This meeting is being held on August 18, 2017 at the August 16, 2017 at the Department of Consumer Affairs located at 1747 North Market Boulevard, Sacramento, California 95834, and has two teleconference locations at Elderwell located at 6345 Balboa Boulevard, Building 1, number 114 in Encino, California 91316, and at Jordan Goldstein Fiduciary Services located at 5 3rd Street, Suite 1132 in San Francisco, California 94103. All three meeting locations are open to the public and accessible according to the American Disability Act standards. Item number 2. At this time, I would like to ask Angela to call roll to establish a quorum.
Good morning. Hang Leto,
Present.
Eileen Federico,
Present.
Barbara DeVries,
Present.
Donna Kell,
Present.
Jenny Chacon,
Present.
King Chi,
Present.
Kathleen Thompson.
Present.
With 7 members present, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Angela. Item number 3. I would like to turn this item over to Tracy Montes, the Chief of the Divisions of Programs and Policy Review.
Well, I'm happy to announce that Governor Brown appointed Rebecca May 22nd. She was sworn in on June 5th, 2017 as the new Bureau Chief. Unfortunately, though, Rebecca is not able to be here today due to a family emergency. But again, we are very happy to have our new Bureau Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Now we are at item number 4. I would like to ask the committee members and Bureau staff to introduce themselves.
Donna Kell, Professional Fiduciary, Sacramento.
King G, Board Member.
Kathleen Thompson, Supervising Court Investigator for Solano County Superior Court.
I'm Hang Leto, Financial Director of the San Francisco Labor Council.
Barbara DeVries, professional fiduciary in the San Francisco area for 27 years. Jenny Chacon, public member works for City County, San Francisco.
Eileen Federico. Eileen Federico. I'm a geriatric social worker and licensed fiduciary serving the LA area.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to introduce themselves? Okay.
Linda Kincaid, Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights.
Dr. Robert Bedgather, Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights.
And I would like to introduce 2 members of our fiduciary staff. We have Sue Lowe, who is our new enforcement analyst, and Daniel Strike, who we did introduce at the last meeting, but we're going to introduce again. He's doing such a fabulous job. But they are helping with enforcement and legislative proposals, and we're very happy to have them as part of our team. And I'm happy to go on to the next item.
Okay, I don't know.
Because
Okay.
I'm going to introduce Gary Duke. Gary has replaced Mirla Stockdale, who was our attorney since March of 2017. Gary was previously counsel for the Bureau from 2007 to 2013, and we're very happy to have him back. Gary.
Thank you, Tracy, and welcome back, Gary. Item number 6, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Director Dean Ramfillo to give the update from the Director's Office.
And we are very happy to have the director here. He is very busy and has carved out some time. So thank you very much, Director.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ms. Montez, Chair Leto, advisory committee members, both here presently and on the line. Thank you very much for this opportunity to not necessarily provide an update per se, but I've been trying to give a self-introduction.
I'm sorry, is he speaking into the mic? We can't really hear him.
Microphone check.
Better.
I'll-
Thank you.
I will place my mouth closer to the mic. As I was briefly saying, I've been trying to do a self-introduction to the 39 entities at DCA. It's been quite the whirlwind these past 5 months, and so I'm glad I'm able to be here today to do that self-introduction. Let me start first off by saying thank you all very much for your commitment to this advisory committee. The work that you do is so critical to, obviously, the mission of this board, but also, of this committee, but also inherently as part of the mission of DCA. The time and effort that you do put in, I deeply appreciate it, and thank you for your continued service. I'm looking forward to identifying ways going forward where I can roll up my sleeves and be directly involved advancing the work that you do. That being said, I will be the first to say that I'm going to be very deferential to your keen insight, expertise, and background. I'm honored to be appointed by Governor Brown 5 months ago now, and I'm happy to say that I was glad that he and Appointment Secretary Mona Pascal and her direct involvement in first appointing me to a sister organization of this committee, the California State Athletic Commission, back in 2010. Although my time there was not as long as I'd hoped, they couldn't get rid of me that easily, and I'm obviously back in the form of director of DCA, and I'm so very glad that I am here. Coincidentally, when I was on the committee, on the commission, I was at that time working for the California Medical Association, and I was the liaison to the Medical Board of California, which many of you may in fact know is also part of DCA in the sense that it's one of the 39 entities as well. And so while my deep understanding of DCA prior to coming on board was limited, I was so glad to learn of the experiences that I had as a commissioner, as I had as a liaison to the medical board for the California Medical Association, was in line with the overall mission and vision of DCA, was in line with the work that this committee does as well. Just continuing on a little bit about my background, I've spent the majority of my career in Sacramento since 2004 as legislative staff for 3 different members. Most recently, current Assembly Member Rob Bonta out of the East Bay cities of Alameda, Oakland, and San Leandro. I had the honor and privilege of being his chief of staff since 2012, prior to coming to DCA this past March. As I mentioned, I was with the California Medical Association. I was with them for 3 years. Previous to that, I had the honor to serve as the chief of staff for former Assembly Member Warren Furutani. He's out of the Long Beach, Gardena, LA area, and then previous to that, what brought me to Sacramento, back to California, was working as a legislative aide for former Majority Leader Alberto Chirico. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how, the work that I was able to focus on during my tenure in the legislature, I think will hopefully serve well this committee, hopefully serve well DCA. I still know where the bathrooms are in the Capitol. I'm happy to assist in pointing, the work that you do here to hopefully navigate anything at the Capitol and naturally beyond that as well. My experience has been that the better that I can truly learn the issues, truly get involved, I hope that is going to serve well for the work that you do. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention prior to my time in the legislature and grad school at the University of Washington, I was a labor union organizer with the Longshore Warehouse Union in Hawaii for about 6 years. I've shared kind of the joke of the ILWU Local 142, which despite its name is in approximately 200 different industries in Hawaii, ranging from NICU nurses to grave diggers. So the ILWU's mantra is ILW 142, we take care of you from the womb to the tomb. Similarly, as you folks know, DCA's breadth and depth. We have physicians, we have NICU nurses, and as you may very well know, we also regulate cemeteries and funeral homes here in California. So I'm glad I'm able to continue that work that I first started out of undergrad. I hope that my experience as a former organizer, as a former ledge staffer, and now my 5 months at DCA is going to complement well again your vast experiences, your vast background towards advancing the mission. Can't say enough how much I appreciate the work you do specific to what can arguably be a vulnerable community. When I hear stories of how folks take advantage of our elderly, oftentimes who are sick, it sickens me to hear that they would take advantage of vulnerable individuals. And I'm so glad that there is an entity like this that is ready to rush to their, to rush on their behalf in order to protect them. And I completely recognize that it does take team input and effort of folks like ourselves. And again, please don't ever hesitate with soliciting my interest and my involvement in those efforts. My style, hopefully, you've been able to glean that already, where I'm going to have an open door. I'm going to want to, before I make a decision, I'm going to want to get a diversity of opinions and insights. For me, it's worked well in that approach because ultimately that'll help give me peace of mind in the decision-making process, just knowing that I've taken a deliberative, robust approach towards often complex, vexing, emotional issues. And so, again, I welcome your insight, expertise towards that effort. As I'm alluding to in terms of my vision at DCA, I'm going to be as proactive as possible in every way, shape, and form that is. And if there are things that we can do in advance of, an individual who is considering taking advantage of a vulnerable elderly, the better that we are obviously doing our work and this organization's work. I'm interested in sharing the many, many successes of this committee, the many boards and bureaus. We can't operate in a vacuum, or if we do so, we aren't effectively advancing the mission of DCA and this committee. So there's been obviously some technological advances related to how we communicate, and I'm looking forward to DCA, in fact, taking advantage of advances and figuring out how we can uniquely tell our story, uniquely tell our successes. In part because of my organizing background, I'm always going to be wanting to underscore, elevate, celebrate the hard work of staff. Without question, I think every reasonable director, manager, their salt is only worth as much as how much they invest in their staff. So naturally, as mentioned, I'm looking forward to identifying ways we can continue to do that. Appreciate Ms. Montes acknowledging staff here earlier, and I echo that sentiment as well. I'm really looking forward to finding out ways that I can roll up my sleeves, get involved directly with this committee's work. Happy to continue this conversation and afterwards, and I'm happy to answer any questions this morning. Naturally, I do not want to get in the way of today's busy agenda.
Sorry. Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Thank you, Mr. Philo. We appreciate you being able to personally give us the update. Thank you so much and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7. Tracy, please read the Bureau's mission statement.
Okay, real quick before I do that, I did want to acknowledge Christine Lawley, who's in the audience. She is our Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations, so thank you for being here. Okay, the Bureau's mission, which we read each meeting, is to protect consumers through licensing, education, and enforcement by ensuring the competency and ethical standards of professional fiduciaries.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Thank you, Tracy. Item number 8. Have the committee members had a chance to review the minute? Are there any suggested edits? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second to the motion? Thank you.
I second Barbara DeVries.
Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion from the committee members? Any public comment? Angela, please do vote by roll call.
Okay, this vote will be to approve the minutes as written to be posted on the Bureau's website. Hang Lee Do,
Second. Approve, yes.
Eileen Federico,
Approved.
Jenny Chacon,
Approved.
King G,
Approved.
Donna Kell,
Approve.
Kathleen Thompson,
Approve.
and Barbara DeVries.
Approved.
Okay, with all 7 committee members approving, the minutes will be posted as written on the website.
Thank you, Angela. Item number 9. I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office to present the budget update. Before the budget office begins, Angela had a comment to make about the budget report documents.
The committee received a comment at the May meeting that the budget materials were not readable because of the font size and the shading of some of the columns. So following that meeting, the materials were posted on the Bureau's website in the color format so that the shaded sections could be read easily by the public. And for this meeting, the materials were posted onto the website and they are able to be enlarged for those who need it larger. And when I sent the notice out of the meeting, that we made a note of that it was able to be enlarged. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for having us today and letting us present to you. My name is Marina O'Connor. I'm a budget manager in the budget office.
My name is Nicole Dragoo. I'm a budget analyst in the budget office. Thanks for having us join you today. So to start out, I'm taking a look at page 6 of the documents, if you'd like to follow along. It's the fiscal year 2016-17 expenditure projections as of June, which is fiscal month 12. If you'd like to take a look at the bottom of the page, you can see that the budget allotment for the PFB was $503,000. And as of June 30th, 2017, the Bureau had spent $486,352, which leaves a reversion of $16,648, or roughly 3%. Are there any questions regarding the expenditure projections? All right, moving forward to page 7, we have the revenue projection document. If you take a look on the right side column under fiscal year 16-17, you can see that as of June 30th, 2017, year to date, the revenues totaled $533,277. And this is an accurate picture of the year-end numbers as well. And this will roll over into the fiduciary fund. Are there any questions regarding the revenue projection document? All right, our last document on page 8 is the professional fiduciary fund condition. These numbers as well of, June 30th, 2017. You can see that the Bureau has 4.5 months in reserve, and the revenues will carry over into the next year. And if you look at the bottom line, months in reserve, you can see that it's increasing each fiscal year just a bit, moving from 4.7 in 17-18 to 5.1 in 18-19 and 5.2 in 19-20. Are there any questions regarding the fund condition?
Just to confirm, it's a good thing, correct?
Yes, correct. We want to see those numbers increasing. I believe that there is a statutory limit of 24 months. I would have to double check that number. But I do know that the larger programs are supposed to stay at a lower reserve level, and the Bureau of around 6 months is a good number to reach.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is King G. I have a question going back to the expenditures, the comparison between the prior year and the current year. We had, most of the year, we had a vacancy in the chief's position. Is that reflective of the savings that are in there? Because it doesn't look like it's year over year. It's much of a savings there.
I'm happy to take that. We took those savings and we're putting it towards the occupational analysis costs. So we also used it towards outreach for Southern California. So we were able to shift some funds.
Oh, okay. Thank
So
you.
yes.
Any further questions for us? All right, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Any comment from the committee members? Any other comments? Any public comment? Thank you, Reno and Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Legislative and Regulatory Review Office to present the legislative update.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Martin Rojas. I am the analyst for the DCA Legislative and Regulatory Review Office that has been assigned to the professional fiduciaries. Benjamin Trifo also joins me up here. I will actually be leaving the department at the end of the month to pursue graduate education. And so your bureau is going to be transferred over to Benjamin Trifo. He's been briefed on many of the issues that the Bureau has been facing and some of the upcoming things such as the sunset review. And he is very, very capable. handles some of our larger programs, including the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education, the Board of Registered Nursing, and others. So you can be very confident that he will be able to shepherd you guys into the future. So I will start with reading the important legislative dates for this upcoming summer and fall. So, and this will take us to the end of the legislative session for 2017. So starting September 1, that's the last day for fiscal committees to meet and report bills to the floor. September 8th is the last day to amend bills on the floor. September 5th to the 15th, the legislature can only hold floor session during this time. No committees other than conference or rules committees may meet for any purpose. September 15th is the last day for each house to pass bills. And October 15th is the last day for the governor to sign or veto bills passed by the legislature.
So again, my name is Ben Trifo. Can everyone hear me? So again, my name is Ben Trifo with the Legislative Office. First and foremost, I would just like to say I'm looking forward to working with your Bureau and the Advisory Committee. I've had the pleasure of knowing Rebecca May, your new Bureau Chief, for a couple of years now, and I really look forward to continuing that relationship as we shepherd along a legislation and go through your sunset process next year. With that in mind, we do have a handful of bills that are on the agenda today that we wanted to go through. First and foremost, there's nothing quite yet specifically identified for your bureau, so all the updates you're going to be hearing today are just DCA-wide bills that may or may not have an impact upon your bureau. Since your last meeting in May, there's been the majority of the bills on this agenda have actually halted in the legislative process. They've become two-year bills. Actually, 8 out of the 10 on here are no longer moving forward this year. That's not to say that they can't come back next year, so we will be continuing to keep an eye on them. So today I'm just going to focus on the the 3 bills that are still moving forward, which are AB 492 and AB 827. So currently AB 492 is on the Senate floor and it's going to be going to concurrence if it passes through the Senate, which basically means the Assembly needs to go through and concur in any amendments that were passed in the second House, which was the Senate. This bill is going to permit a person, firm, corporation, or association that is a non-governmental agency to solicit a fee for providing a copy of a public record if that solicitation meets specific requirements, which those specific requirements is standardized language that needs to be on a document in the request for that information. This bill would also authorize the Attorney General or a district attorney to bring action against any person who does not conform to the provisions of the bill. Are there any questions on AB 492? Okay. The second bill that's still technically moving along, though it's on the Senate suspense file right now in the Appropriations Committee, which means it may or may not make it out of committee when the legislature reconvenes, is AB 827. This is a bill, and it's actually recently been amended, that would require the department to create a task force to study and write a report on its findings regarding foreign-trained, high-skilled professionals and integrating those high-skilled professionals into the California workforce. So the document you have in front of you has the previous language from the bill, which was a little more general, saying that the DCA needed to create something. It's since been amended to create a task force. But again, that bill is in the Appropriations Committee on their suspense file, so it may not be moving forward this year. Are there any questions on AB 827? Okay. And then the last bill that we wanted to talk about is actually something that's not necessarily impacting the department, but something that we've been informed that we want to keep an eye on, and that's AB 1380. And so you'll have to bear with me. I'm going to read this one verbatim as I'm not too familiar with this bill. So this bill is currently in the Senate Appropriations Committee, and it would require any regional center to develop a process by which all vendor contracts are reviewed at least once every 2 years and requires the outcome of those reviews to be documented in the regional center's files. Additionally, this bill would require an employer to submit the fingerprints of a prospective in-home respite worker to the Justice Department for a criminal background check prior to employment and would prohibit employment as one of these providers if an applicant has specified convictions. This bill would also require the Department of Developmental Services to conduct an in-depth review of in-home respite provider rates as specified and report those results to the legislature. And again, this bill is alive still and it's in the Senate Appropriations Committee. With that, if you guys have any questions, be more than happy to attempt to answer them. And if not, it's very nice to meet you, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future.
I have a question. Just for the purposes of the general public and for the benefit of the committee, could you define what are regional centers?
I don't have the definition in front of me of the exact language of the bill. That is something that we can provide. Again, this being a bill that we aren't tracking specifically in our office, it's something I would have to get the definition from the bill specifically or current statute.
This is Tracy Montez. If I can give some background, this was one of the bills that the committee had asked us to pursue or to keep an eye on, and this is related to item 11, which I'll wait to go into, but we really appreciate Ledge tracking this for us because, again, it's outside of your scope of work, so to speak, for us, but you were very helpful. So that's why we know we don't know a lot of the terms and details, but it was a request from a committee member.
Hi, this is Eileen Federizo. Was the original question asking what a regional center is?
I believe so, the statutory definition of regional center.
Oh, statutory definition, okay.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment?
Wait, this is Barbara. I don't have the statutory definition of a regional center, but it was, they're centers set up to serve the developmentally disabled. So basically, that's what it does, all kinds of services to the developmentally disabled.
This is Gary Duke. Thank you very much. That was my understanding also, but it wasn't clear in the description here. That's why I wanted to question it, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Ben.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving the Bureau.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Item number 12, item number 11. Tracy, please present the update of tracking caregiver legislation.
So again, at this time, the only bill that was brought to our attention by the committee was AB 1380. So certainly as other bills come to your attention or other keywords, we're certainly willing to look those up and work with our alleged unit. And again, as we go into the next cycle next year, we can kind of be ahead of things. So again, we're just open to any feedback or other bills that we can assist the Bureau with tracking.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Thank you, Tracy. Item number 12. Tracy, please present the Bureau's updates.
Okay, as I do or have been doing each month, we're going to just go through some of the statistics here that you have in your packet. We have 727 active licensees. New licenses issued were 63, and I would like to share that we issued license 1,000. We, of course, don't have 1,000 currently licensed, but we did hit the 1,000 mark, which I think is exciting.
Wow.
Total licenses issued to date, 995. Complaints received, 120. Complaints closed, 168. Complaints pending, 41. Average day to close complaints, 258. AG cases initiated 4, citations issued 3. Number of complaints have decreased slightly over the last 3 years. We have been able to focus on pending complaints, and as you know, we're able to get some assistance with closing those with our operations manager, Sabina Knight, who was here for a brief period of time, who was not only an attorney but also did some fiduciary work, so she was able to help us go through some cases and close them. And then our licensee population is climbing slowly, which is good. Obviously we'd like it to go fast, but at least it is climbing, increasing. So we're very excited about that. Any questions about the statistics? You'll notice because this is the end of the fiscal year, you have the 3-year comparison, which again was also asked by a member in our audience attending the May meeting.
Hi, Kathleen Thompson. So the average days to close, it looks like it's actually taking longer.
And again, it's an average, so you've got an outlier. You've got some outliers in there that are a little bit more challenging to close.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be concerned that although it may have increased again, it's the outliers that pull that average.
All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Eileen Federizo. Do we have any idea what is causing the increase? I mean, is there some indication so that maybe we can continue to focus our efforts in that kind of marketing or education, getting the word out for people to get licensed?
The slight increase in licensing?
Yes, You said it's gradually increasing.
Yes, I don't have a specific answer to that. I'd like to think that it's some of the outreach events and maybe some communications through our association, but I can't speak specifically at this time. I know that Rebecca May had some ideas that she has put into motion, and then also through our occupational analysis, we're going to be reaching out to licensees and hopefully utilizing them to educate and promote the profession. And then also even having the meetings webcast and having multiple locations, because that was some feedback that we received that folks did not realize that the meetings were actually webcast. So we hope that these little bits, plus some of the things that your new bureau chief has planned, will make that slow increase turn into a more steady increase in licensees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Tracy, this is King G. I have a question regarding the total licensees. In order to help us with our effort to outreach to the communities throughout the state, do we have any information regarding the geographical dispersion of the licensees?
Why, thank you for asking. Yes, we do. And that was also a question that came up at our May meeting, and I'd like to thank our OIS team, our Office of Information Services, as well as Angie for pulling this together for us. We have 403 licensees with an address of record in Northern California, 435 licenses list an address on record in Southern California. We've also got 13 that list an address of record in another state. And so as far as northern, southern, I would defer to Angie to give you the boundaries of that. But we were able to get some initial information for you. We can, of course, dig a little deeper, but this was what we were able to get today.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you give the number for Southern California?
I'm sorry, Southern California was 435.
Thank you.
This is Barbara DeVries. How come we license people that have addresses in other states?
Yeah, that was my question too.
So the list of licensees that we did this report on are active licensees and delinquent, because until the licenses actually cancel, they're still considered to be licensed and under our jurisdiction. So I don't know if it's under our jurisdiction, but they are able to reinstate at any time until it cancels. So some of those that are delinquent have moved out of state, whether temporarily, and they may not be practicing, but they are still listed on our files. And as far as the boundary, Southern California started around San Luis Obispo when I looked up boundary-wise.
To me, it's anything south of San Jose.
This is Dawn. Is it possible to break it down to a more regional area to see where our heaviest concentration points, for example, how many in the Bay Area versus Sacramento area? We might see that there's higher concentrations in other regional areas.
Yes, we don't have these numbers to report, but we actually broke it down into county.
Okay.
And I had help from Sue in our office to help me make sure I got all the right counties and everything.
And if I could address Barbara DeVries' questions on out-of-state licenses, it's not uncommon for many fiduciaries to work in different states as long as they're licensed. Many of us in California are licensed in Arizona and other states.
Okay, any other comments from the committee members? Any public comment?
Yes. This is Linda Kincaid with the Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights, and I would like to comment on the days to closing of complaints. We get contacted by families who report that they've submitted complaints over and over and over and never hear anything back. So it would be really helpful to families if there could be some way to track the progress of those complaints through the investigative process and perhaps get monthly or quarterly updates on what's happening and when they can expect to have a final resolution.
We are tracking complaints. We did have a slight backlog. We have since cleared that, but I would encourage these individuals who have reached out and not been contacted by the Bureau to email either myself or the chief, and she is going to be out through Labor Day, so you're welcome to email me. My address is tracy.montez@dca.ca.gov, and we can follow up on that. Unfortunately, we do not have the staffing to allow us to provide regular updates, but we do we do reach out to those that file complaints, let them know that it's been received. We do have a process for that. We are at this time responding in a timely manner. So again, please do feel free to reach out if you have specific individuals that have concerns with their complaints.
Any other public comment? Thank you, Tracy. Now, item number 13. Tracy. I'm sorry.
Still my turn. I'll continue with the
I'm sorry.
outreach events. And we have quite a few, so I'm going to run down our list here. So the Bureau staff attended a senior scam stopper event in Union City on May 11th. They also attended a senior scam stopper event in Pacifica on May 12th. At both of these events, staff presented to groups of seniors and answered questions about the profession. They also attended a Soar to Healthy Heights event in Citrus Heights on May 12th, so we had 2 folks out. And then also attended the 2017 PFAC, Professional Fiduciary Association of California Conference in Burlingame, May 31st through June 3rd. The Bureau Chief, Rebecca May, spoke at the opening conference, and staff hosted lunchtime roundtables. The staff also attended the Solano District Attorney's Office Elder Abuse Forum on June 15th and a Financial Literacy Month Resource Fair, which was actually at the state capitol on June 16th. Upcoming events. Their staff will attend the Department of Business Oversight Trainer Convening at Fresno City Hall on September 1st. They're going to be presenting information on the profession, licensing, and enforcement. They also plan to attend the 10th Annual Senior Resource and Crime Prevention Fair in Woodland on October 12th. Also will attend the Dixon Senior Resource Fair on October 14th and the, again, Business Oversight Resource Fair in San Diego, Southern California, October 16th. So as you can see, quite a few outreach events. Again, one of the nice things about having a full staff is, in addition to complaint processing and application processing, we can send some folks out to do some outreach. Any questions about outreach events?
I have a question. Just concerned about the staff time because it seems like we are increased the outreach, more outreach in compared to the last few years. So can you give us a
So again, because we are fully staffed with Sue and Dan, we have the ability to have them in the office as well as going out to some outreach. And we do some tag teaming. So not all staff go out to every outreach event. Some we take turns, we try to rotate because we think it's important for them to get out and interact with the community, but again, also cover the very important tasks. So again, that's what Rebecca does is she determines if and when, and certainly if there are other pressing matters, then we don't attend outreach. Okay, I'll move on to Sunset Review. We are up for Sunset Review in 2019, and we'll be presenting to the Senate Business and Professions Committee in 2018. The exact date of the hearing is to be determined, and we do this so that we can be hopefully extended another 4 years. This is a requirement for all boards and bureaus to go through. So the staff, again, in addition to all of our other duties that we do, have been putting together the draft report, and Rebecca May, your bureau chief, actually got that submitted to the LEDGE unit. And again, with staff assisting on the various attachments, we go through an iterative process of reviewing it. We're actually meeting with the LEDGE unit on Friday to go over that first draft. And again, they guide us through this process. So we're very appreciative of their support because they do this all the time. This is part of their job. We only do it every 4 years. So they're going to give us guidance. And then, of course, at the hearing, Rebecca will go to the hearing and testify and so forth. And once the report is finalized and becomes a public document, we post that and then share it with the committee. Any questions about Sunset? My final item is the client notification of licensure regulations.
Wait, hang on, did you ask for public comment?
Public comment on the Sunset Review?
Yeah, somebody had one. Oh.
Hi, this is Linda Kincaid again with Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights. I'm interested in the Sunset Review process and the legislative review. Is that something that advocates and members of the public can get involved in?
Yes, there will be postings for the hearings, and Ledge, you can help me out here, but there is a sequence of events. It's all on the website, and there'll be notices in terms of when the hearings are, and there's opportunities for the public to submit comments as well as to testify.
Great, thank you very much.
I think Natalie's going to add to this, and then we also have some additional public comment.
Hi, this is Natalie Martin Rojas, Legislative Analyst for the Department of Consumer Affairs. So just to answer the question about the legislative process, the opportunity for public comment, like Tracy said, is mostly at the hearings, and the initial hearings are generally at scheduled late February, March. That's generally when they're scheduled. They usually don't try not to go later than that because not only is the fiduciaries up for sunset, but several other boards and bureaus. So they have a lot to get through. So they're trying to get those through, in addition to all the other legislation. Those will be special hearings where they only do sunset review for boards and bureaus. The public is invited to attend to provide comment. The sunset, and there will also be materials available related to that hearing closer to those dates. So, and you will be receiving more information about that as we get closer to those dates.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Chair and members. I'm Jerry Desmond, the advocate for the Professional Fiduciary Association of California. And just to note on the record, as the Bureau engages in the sunset review process, that PFAC will continue to support the continuation of the Bureau as we have in previous sunset review proceedings. And as the
Jerry, please speak into the mic. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Boy. There is a distance issue here. So Jerry Desmond, on behalf of the Professional Fiduciary Association of California, PFAC, to and make sure the committee knows, as anticipated, that PFAC will support the continuation of the Bureau as we have during previous sunset reviews in the legislative process, and as a co-sponsor of the original legislation that established the Act and the Bureau. We believe that the statutes and the regulations and the Bureau are important to the continuation of consumer protection as well as standards for the industry. So I anticipate we'll be supporting actively through the process. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I'm gonna do my last item here then, the client notification regulations. So, our fourth 15-day comment period ended August 14th. We did receive some comments. We're reviewing those, and we expect to submit the file to the Office of Administrative Law soon. You have a copy of the proposed language, and again, we feel confident that this will be moving forward and be successful in the process. So thank you all for your patience, because we know this has been drawn out, but the feedback has been very helpful in refining these regulations. Any questions?
Any other comment from the committee members? Any public comments?
I think I got it this time. Jerry Desmond, on behalf of PFAC, to note that we appreciate the opportunity to review and provide comments as we have on previous iterations of the proposed regulation. A number of revisions have been made that we think improve the document, provide a regulatory scheme for customer notification that will work for the industry. And in the latest iteration, we have submitted comments in support of the one change, which is to extend the date for compliance to March 1, 2018, with the thought that that makes sense to provide a couple months so that the members of the profession and the licensees can learn about the new requirement, can adapt their websites, prepare their postings, and we will be, as we continue to reach out to the members of PFAC, to let them know about this pending regulatory development as we had at the conference and in the newsletters and in previous communications. So we support the regulations as they're now worded to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Any additional public comment? No. Thank you, Tracy. So now we are at item number 13. Tracy, please start discussions on the Professional Fiduciaries Code of Ethics and possible ways to improve the code.
Okay, so this item was brought up by one of our committee members, and I would like to respectfully ask the committee if we could table this item for a future meeting when our new bureau chief is here, and also though kind of behind the scenes incorporate some ideas as we work on our occupational analysis and we do our strategic planning and sort of encompass all of those areas. I know that again, I think that this would be a good item for our new bureau chief. But I leave it up to the committee members in terms of whether or not they'd like to start a discussion today or if it is acceptable to table it as a formal discussion for the next meeting.
This is Eileen Federizo. I think it makes sense to actually wait and table it.
Any other comment from the committee members?
Is this public comment now?
Yes. Any public comment?
Okay, yes, this is Linda Kincaid, the Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights, and I do have some recommendations for the Code of Ethics. I'm wanting to submit into the public record a New York Times article titled "Calls for Court Reform as Legal Guardians Abuse Older Adults." And it does not specifically describe any cases in California, but we hear similar stories from California day in and day out. And I think part of the issue may be that conservators, professional fiduciaries are not aware of what the laws are. And your revisions of your Code of Ethics would be a perfect opportunity to do some education on what the laws are. And I'm submitting into the public record Welfare Institutions Code 15610.07, which is the definition of elder abuse. And isolation is a form of elder abuse, and that's very important. We get calls every day about people being isolated. Also submitting into the public record, Welfare Institutions Code, section 15610.43, which is the definition of isolation. It's basically anything that prevents that conservatee from having contact with anyone that they want to talk to or visit with. Submitting into the public record, Penal Code 368, and I would draw your attention to PC 368C, which states that any act that causes mental suffering is elder abuse and is a crime. And lastly, submitting into the public record, the California Department of Justice elder abuse policy, which also defines on the second page, defines abuse of an elder or dependent adult, includes isolation and any activities which cause mental suffering. So I'm submitting these into the public record for your review as items that might want to be considered for revisions of the Code of Ethics. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Dr. Robert Beckadder, also of the Coalition for Elder and Disability Rights, and a follow-up on the Cade comment. In comparing the PFB with other bureaus and boards with, under the DCA, for example, the Board of Psychology, when you hit laws and regulations on that website, you get a document of over 600 pages that relates to relevant laws and regulations for the practice of psychology. And so a supplement to the very small version of that on the PFB website, it correctly says that, of course, like all professionals, you must adhere to relevant state and federal laws. But like the Board of Psychology, we're suggesting per Linda's comment that they be listed.
Any additional public comment?
So thank you for those comments. Again, they will be reviewed and considered, and definitely, again, if the committee chooses to table this item, we are going to work on this behind the scenes, because again, I think it's very important information that we capture in both our occupational analysis work and our strategic plan, and also finally making sure that our website has information that is easily accessible. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Now, item number 14, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Office and Professionals Examination Services to speak about the occupational analysis.
I'm going to just do a quick introduction to Raul can introduce himself as well, but I've known Raul for about 20 years now, and he is trained as a psychometrician like myself, so I'm very pleased that he was able to do this work for us. And we also have Brian here too from OPS, who's relatively new but is training, and so we're very pleased again to be working with this unit that is near and dear to my heart. So thank you, Raul and Brian.
Thank you, Tracy. Good morning, my name is Raul Villanueva, and I'm a supervisor with the Office of Professional Examination Services, and I'm conducting the occupational analysis for professional fiduciaries.
Louder, please.
Thank you. The mission of OPES is to protect the interests of consumers by supporting DCA and its regulatory entities. Really where we focus is on the commitment to establish and maintain licensure examinations that are fair, valid, and legally defensible. The occupational analysis is an applied research study whose focus is to identify the critical tasks and knowledges related to entry-level licensure. It's mandated by Business and Professions Code Section 139, which requires that all licensure examinations follow professional standards for applied psychometrics. And in addition, that we follow the standards for educational psychological testing as well as other professional standards. DCA policy, I think it's OPES 1201, which was developed to enact Business Professions Code Section 139 describes in more detail the requirements in terms of the development of licensure examinations, and principal among them being that an occupational analysis be conducted. So really the way to think about this occupational analysis is to think about an applied research study, right? It starts at the very beginning with a look at what's been done in the past, what kinds of research has been conducted. We do a literature review, and we also go and interview licensees. So Angela and a few of the other staff got together a list of licensees for us to interview. And I think it was about 8 to 10 that we were actually able to get a hold of and hold 1-hour interviews. And really what we're trying to do there is to start getting an idea of the types of tasks and knowledge statements, principal areas of work, changes in the profession, changes in the law that may have impacted the profession over the last 3 to 5 years. And from their perspective, changes that might be forthcoming as they look at practice over the next 3 to 5 years. The next step in the process is we're going to begin conducting the workshops. What we do is for 1 to 2 days, we bring in 6 to 10 licensees, and really the focus is to start refining those tasks and knowledges, to start refining the areas of practice that we'll be looking at. Part of the process too is to develop the demographic items that will go into the survey. The point of this is to develop a survey that encompasses the broad practice, and we'll do a pilot survey first, which I would like to invite those of you who would like to participate. We could include you in the pilot survey. This will give you an idea of what it is we're surveying, the tasks and knowledge statements, and on a preliminary basis, be able to provide some input and feedback, say in terms of nomenclature, wording, or suggestions. Okay. The pilot survey should be ready. Cross your fingers, everything goes fine. We get good recruitments for the workshops. I would anticipate sometime in November. So the focus of the pilot survey is the refinement. Make sure everything makes sense. The wording of the rating scales makes sense to the licensees. Once that's done, in some circumstances, with a large population of licensees, we'll develop a stratified random sample. With the population of your licensees, we're probably going to go ahead and sample all of them. In other words, everyone who's currently licensed and practicing in California, because it's a California occupational analysis, will receive a letter inviting them to participate in the survey. It's an online survey. Rather than go into the details of that, my staff and I, we monitor the process and the progress of the survey. For the Bureau, I don't think you have email addresses, so we'll be using regular mail. So follow-ups may be a little bit challenging, but it has been done in the past. Hopefully we get a good sample size and a good response. That's one of the things too that the outreach really helps with, is making sure that from the get-go that the licensees are aware that we're doing this and are encouraged to participate.
If I may jump in real quick, when we do send out those surveys, it comes with a cover letter from the bureau chief explaining what is involved in bit detail.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tracy. As I go through this, also, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And to the...
Hi, this is Eileen Federica. Raul, I have a question.
Very good. I was going to make sure that you folks out there, that you feel free to ask also. Please go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I had a question. So did you say that it's going to come snail mail, and is it for everybody or just a sample of people? Because we have listservs, Northern and Southern California.
That's something we could look into. Traditionally, it's sent through U.S. postage. I'm open to looking at alternatives. The prime thing to remember is that it is a formal communication from the Bureau to the licensees, and as such then, things that would accompany and impact that, we need to be mindful of. But I think you can send that information to the staff, and they can look into that and communicate back to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, this is King G, and I just have a general question. Do you have any expectation as to what the response level would be in this type of a survey?
It's typical for it to range with a mailing of this type anywhere between, I'd say 10 to 15. 15's really good percent. It has been higher. It really depends on the cohesiveness of the licensee population, the advanced communication to the licensee population, and the efforts that are made on the front end. Those are really more primary factors.
If for some reason there's a low response rate, we will reach out and find other ways to get that to an acceptable response rate, which for us has been about 10 to 12%. That's kind of what the literature has. But certainly, I mean, there's been professions that have been at 20% or higher.
Or higher.
But again, as Raul said, it depends on the publicity and the support that goes out before this. And I know that I have Raul, he's going through this at a very high level, but again, we expect to continue to provide you with more information and more detail, because there is really a method to our madness. And when he talks about task and knowledge, that's special language for what we do, but it's always really exciting once we get the folks in the workshops and talk to them about this process, because you are essentially updating the practice. Yes, it is defined in scope, but the actual details are updated, and you are representing when you participate in these workshops or interviews, or you complete the survey, you are contributing to a body of information that is so important. It helps identify the exam, and it helps with legislation. It really strengthens your program. So I'm sorry if I'm still in your thunder, because this is always my favorite part, is just really, it's a big deal. And to have this done, if anybody scrutinizes your profession, you can say, we've done an occupational analysis. We know currently what is being done. And this is also important for the Little Hoover Commission, which we all know is out there taking a look at licensing boards and bureaus. And so this is just a huge thing to have. So anyway, I'll be quiet.
No, excellent points. Excellent points. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Eileen Federico. I agree with everything that's been said, and that's why I think it's important for us to communicate with the PFAC organization, just because it's a very active and group that, yeah, if they have a heads up, I think it'll increase the likelihood of responses.
I agree.
This is Barbara DeVries. Is it possible to make this as a requirement to renew your license? Or does that take a whole legislative process?
It sounds like a good idea, but unfortunately, it's not something that we could do in practice. It's really a voluntary type of activity. Though I will say, though, in regards to what the other comment was regarding, in terms of the usefulness of the professional organization in becoming involved and helping to support the endeavor, by and large, that is true. And by and large, when that type of partnership happens between the board, bureau, program, the professional organization, to foster and increase that support, it always increases the response rate.
Raul, wouldn't a compulsive participation in this also taint the study itself, as opposed to voluntary participation?
You would have to wonder the basis for some of the responses and decisions. Were they made because that's the way it is, or because that's the way I thought I should have answered it? So yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's
right. It's hard to wear both hats and us be able to make good interpretations of the data.
One other question with regards to PFAC. There's approximately about 1,000 licensees. So is participation of 120 of the licensees would be considered statistically valid for an occupational analysis?
That's a good question. You know, by and large, it's not just a matter of numbers. It's also a matter of how representative the sample is of the population within the state. So if you have a very large number responding, but they all came out of one region, for example, or they only worked with one type of limited conservatorships, for example, you'd have a biased sample. In other words, it would not be representative of the profession at large. And so for us, we have to look at both variables. So the answer is yes and yes, but only if.
So when you are sampling people, I mean, you do get that other type of demographic information.
Yes,
as
one
to
of the-
what they're involved in within their practice.
Yes, and that's one of the things that my staff and I do is the responses are coming in, we're always looking at the demographics.
And the subject matter experts who participate in these workshops, again, as licensees, will help give Raul and Brian information about the areas of practice and the other types of variables. I mean, we can talk about years of licensed in the county you work in, those basic things, but there could be other important demographics that would be tied to this study that we can include. Now, again, we can't include 100 questions. We do have to tie it to the occupational analysis, but there is some flexibility in those types of demographics to make sure we capture that picture of your profession.
Right. So for example, maybe a non-traditional way of approaching a demographic item, but very important in some circumstances, is where you anticipate changes in the profession, or changes are occurring within the profession at this time. A demographic item could be very useful as creating a marker for what is the status now, so that the board can come in and do measurements later to see exactly how things have changed. So as Tracy's mentioning, that's one of the reasons why during the interviews and then throughout the workshops, and even today, I'll be asking, how have things changed and how do you anticipate things changing?
I'd like to add just one more comment to that.
Yes, sir.
There's and as you well know, I'm no psychometrician by any means, but there is a tremendous difference, and I think the general public doesn't really understand the difference between occupational licensing examinations and, let's say, academic examinations. Is what you've stated, the whole purpose of the occupational analysis is to see what is the status of the profession right now? What are existing practitioners doing? The purpose of occupational licensure is to make sure that anybody who's entering into the profession has a minimal competency, and you can only determine that by having basically an assessment of where we at right now.
Yes.
Because I didn't mean to
overstate anything. That well stated. Another difference between the educational exam and licensure exam is quite often the educational exam is aimed at theoretical. And with the licensure exam, we have to look at the application. And so the level of application when we develop the items has to be at a level commensurate with being able to evaluate minimum competency is what it's called, minimum acceptable competency to practice safely. Where did I lose you?
No, it's all right, just continue from now on.
Okay, and thank you for the reminder. I have to lean forward a little bit. And so again, the higher level of application is what allows us then to draw an inference in terms of a predictor of ability in that range of ability, which is the minimum acceptable competence. So all of this gets put together into a big validation report. The validation report and a presentation will be provided to the Bureau in terms of what kinds of results, what is the meaningfulness of those results, and next steps in terms of the application of those results. The whole process takes anywhere from 9 months to a year. It really depends on response rate, how successful things are going, recruitment, and a few intangibles. Do you have any additional questions? I have some. In your board packet, you received a real quick overview of what an occupational analysis is, why it's needed. And at the very end, there was 3 questions. And it was to get your initial input into 3 areas: the changes in practice and regulation anticipated over the next 3 to 7 years, trends you see emerging, and the potential impact on the profession, and your opinion about what differentiates newly licensed versus experienced practitioners in meeting the needs of consumers. My first question is, did I allow sufficient time for us to be able to talk about that now, or would you prefer to take additional time and maybe write something up and provide it to your staff?
So what I had talked to Raul about is that, you might want as a homework assignment to consider, these areas. You can talk a little bit about it now, give him some initial feedback, and then, again, you can kind of think about this over time and submit this. Because one of the nice things about the occupational analysis is it is a process. And
Yes.
so there is some time for feedback, but these again are very important things that we would like to hear the committee some feedback from them.
So maybe you could give us, like you said, a little written blurb about what you're gonna do. This is Barbara DeVries, and then we can kind of make our comments from that.
So maybe to explain in a little bit more detail what's intended by those 3 areas and be able to provide that back to the committee members?
Yes.
And what we can do is put some examples, so we can take an example of some of the other boards or bureaus, programs that we've worked with, and we can give you some examples of what we've heard from those boards. And then again, that might kind of get you thinking about how those changes or those examples, might stimulate some thought regarding your profession.
If that would be helpful, my office and I will certainly provide it.
Yes.
Very good. I'll be submitting that then to Angela, and then she can disperse it. Which I have to say, working with your staff has been a pleasure, in terms of good communication, in terms of the products that we receive, and I look forward to more of that in the future. It's really nice, so thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
We have some public comment here.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, any other members' comments? No. Any public comments?
Yes, this is Dr. Robert Fettgather in San Francisco, and I apologize, the audibility of this is sometimes hard to hear, and I may be asking a question that you've already answered. But I have a 2-part question on this exam. First, will the exam, like other board exams, cover laws and regulations, for example, from the probate code and the penal code, like some of the things Linda Kincaid brought up earlier? And second, like other board exams, will it cover practice? For example, in the TFB ethics code, there are decision standards, there are residential placement standards that are actually fairly complex and relate differently when it comes to different populations, elders versus developmentally disabled. Will there be items in those 2 broad categories on the exam?
Actually, that question is a little bit premature. The purpose of the occupational analysis is to identify those areas of practice that are appropriate for testing for entry-level work or entry-level licensure. As such, that's a question that'll be answered way up the road. Right now, we're just at the very beginning. But you're right in terms of understanding that one of the principal applications of the occupational analysis is to provide the foundation for the licensure exam.
Thank you, and I understand that from a previous comment, you will look at examinations utilized by other bureaus and boards, which usually do typically emphasize regulations and laws and minimal qualifications and practice on their exams. That will be part of what you do?
Do you want me to jump in? So we don't look at other boards' exams. What Raul and Brian and the staff at OPS do, what they're going to be doing is asking the fiduciaries, what are the things that you do in your job, and what is the knowledge that supports that? So we've heard here, for example, that there's certain codes, welfare and institutions code, penal code, things like that, that have some very important knowledge that fiduciaries must be aware of. So those kinds of things will be taken into account. So you heard Raul earlier talk about tasks and knowledges. So those are the things we're gonna craft out. And essentially you're gonna end up with this survey that says, this is what a professional fiduciary does. This is the knowledge that they need to know. And then from a rating process, which Raul will address at another meeting, we're gonna kind of refine that to what potentially is most critical for entry-level practice. Then we go into the exam part, so it's still very early in terms of the exam, but to, I think, address your concerns in terms of looking at important knowledge, codes, ethics, things like that, I would anticipate, yes, that's gonna be part of it, because that does parallel our other professions. Raul, if you'd like to add anything.
No, very succinctly stated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another public comment in the room. Jerry Desmond, on behalf of PFAC, I want to make sure that we respond to say that we're hearing the message about early involvement and engagement by the association in terms of the occupational analysis and these steps. And so I'll take that back right away to the leadership of PFAC so that they know of the opportunity and how they can best participate to move this along. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raul. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So now we are at item number 15. I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Solid Planning Solutions to speak about the Bureau's strategic plan.
And I think they stepped out. So may I request that we take a 5-minute restroom break while we go track down Solid? Is that acceptable?
So, okay.
Oh, they're here.
Oh, they're back.
Do we need to take a 5-minute break? Does anybody? Are we
No.
okay? Okay, we will continue. Thank you.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
In your packets, I believe it's the last page, you have the development roadmap for the strategic plan. And I'm Elizabeth Cornell. I'm with Solid Strategic Planning Solutions. And we will be assisting the Bureau with its next strategic plan. So in the roadmap, you'll see that it consists of 5 main components.
Please speak up.
Yes, my apologies. The roadmap that is contained in the packet consists of 5 main components for developing and implementing the strategic plan. So in the first component, it is the preliminary meeting and the setup in which Solid meets with the client and establishes roles, defines processes, and basically creates a customized development plan for the Bureau. The next step is the environmental scan, in which consists of surveys, interviews, and focus groups depending on the needs of the program. So stakeholders, obviously, since it's a larger group, it's conducted through surveys. And staff, if possible, focus groups are conducted. If there's any other restrictions, we can do surveys online as well, and we can conduct interviews of the committee members and the executives or chiefs. And then we will compile all of this information, so all the feedback we will be obtaining, in which we would basically be requesting the SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the program. SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses will be more internal of the processes. Opportunities and threats are more of the industry, of the outside. The program's pest control. So all of this feedback will be obtained and put into an environmental scan, a document in which you have all the raw comments and then pretty much the summarizations of those comments for each of the goal areas. So with that environmental scan, we'll provide it to the chief, to the program, and that will be provided to the committee members during the next planning session or the next committee meeting. And objectives will be developed based on that strategic plan. Objectives will be developed based on that strategic plan, and mostly it's concentrating on the weaknesses and threats, even opportunities that are observed. Strengths obviously are meant to be sustained, but in regards to the strategic plan, you're trying to find objective solutions for the next couple of years. After those objectives have been developed and mission, vision, and values, those are something that can be reestablished if needed. Again, that would be decided in the preliminary meeting based on what the program needs. After that, we will put all of the objectives that were put together during the meeting and create a finalized plan provided to the client. Any edits necessary, we will implement those. And the next committee meeting, though, that will be approved by you all committee members. And we also offer action planning in which we will help the program actually put those objectives into action by creating tasks, timeframes, and metrics, and so on. So that pretty much is what strategic planning is going to look like for the next couple of months. And actually, this is not going to start until a little bit later, but this is just an overview. Any questions?
I do want to add that our bureau chief has been in discussions with Solid on this. So again, Rebecca's already involved in working with the team.
Thank you.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on item number 16. Angela, what items have you recorded from our meeting today as future agenda items?
Okay, so I have a few of them. To continue to do the update on AB 1380 from our legislative office, a breakdown of the licensees by county, and then a discussion on the tabled item that we have on the Professional Fiduciaries Code of Ethics and possible ways to improve that code. And I will, from the public comments we received at this meeting and the committee member comments, I'll put together something for our bureau chief so that she can use that as a start to the discussion so that we don't lose those comments. And I believe that we were going to go ahead and have an occupational analysis update. And as always, in our November meeting, we have, at the end of the meeting, the elections for the chair and the vice chair. And then also, we'll have come prepared with a possible list of 2018 calendar dates for our meetings. And our meeting rooms fill up really quickly, so if you guys know of any time in 2018 you won't be available, please email me so we can try to work around that ahead of time. I'll work with Rebecca and we'll put together a list of meeting dates and then basically come in with those dates at our next meeting and say these are them unless you have a major problem. Is there anything that I missed or any additional items?
Are there any other items from the committee members would like to add? Is there any public comment? Thank you, Angela. Item number 7.
Yes.
Public comment. Hang on.
Yes, this is Linda Kincaid with Elder and Disability Rights again with public comment for items that were not on the agenda. Is this the appropriate time? I'll take that as a yes.
We're gonna move. It's gonna be on the item number 18. So, hold on. We just go to number 17 first, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. So item number 17, the following days is the last day calendar for 2017, Wednesday, November 15, 2017. Now, Linda, we are on the item 18. Is there any public comment on items not listed on the agenda?
Yes, thank you. Linda Kincaid, Elder and Disability Rights. And I mentioned earlier that families report to us that they file complaints and never get any response. The ones who do get a response, and a response that I received myself when I filed complaints, is that no crime was committed. You send in a laundry list of many forms of elder abuse, and you get back a response, no crime was committed. It is not my understanding that the PFC is an entity that is authorized to adjudicate whether a crime was committed. Rather, the PFC should be looking to the Code of Ethics and the statutory authorities that are relevant to the behaviors of a fiduciary. So I am submitting into the public record a complaint against licensee Patricia Cooney for isolation elder abuse of conservatee Roberta Cunieras. And I will also submit into the public record complaint against Patricia Cooney, isolation elder abuse of Margaret Short. And in order to assist these complaints,
Ms. Kincaid? Ms.
Yeah.
Kincaid, this is Gary Duke, the legal counsel to the Bureau. Before you put in other names of individuals or complainants into the public record, for the protection of their personal privacy, as demanded by the California Constitution, I would recommend that you submit your specifics to Angela with the Bureau, either by way of email or regular mail or somehow, or at least not mention the individuals that you're referring to right now.
Okay, I will not rename any more individuals. I will refer to attachment A. Well, actually, before attachment A, I will note that these complaints reference the relevant legal authority. So that is provided, so no one has to go find it. The legal authority is included as part of the complaint. And then in attachment A, I will mention some names of legislators who would like to be informed of the progress of the complaint. We're asking for monthly updates, and also Assemblymember Mark Stone, Assemblymember Ash Kalra, Senator Bill Monning, Senator Jerry Hill, and Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. So I am submitting these complaints into the public record, and I have permission of the families. In fact, I have the request of the families to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Could I just simply, Ms. Kincaid, could I ask that you do actually send it either by way of regular mail or email to the Bureau?
I'll email to you also, but I wanted to get these into the public record. The families did make that request.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments? Thank you. Our legal counsel, can we adjourn the meeting now?
Of course.
Okay. You are our legal counsel. So, the meeting is adjourned at 11:36 a.m.